Hi, we're going to be doing another Pokemon video, although holding the trading card, it will not be on the trading cards and their meta and all that. My notes over here. So I wanted to go over, hopefully this will be a shorter video, the competitive scene a little bit, my thoughts on it, and the meta that was decided upon. It's interesting looking at the rules and looking at things that were decided upon, though. Like what is considered broken, not broken. Like Gen 1, start there. Mew, obviously, considered broken. And just sort of the standard rules that are out there. Like, so species clause, you're only allowed to have one of each Pokemon. Which it's funny because in later gens, you can kind of work around that because of how similar some Pokemon are when they evolve. You know, you can have Chansey and Blissey, and then you can, Evilite becomes a thing. Evasion Clause is the one I want to get into. We'll skip it for now, we'll come back to it. One-hit KO Clause, that's Fissure, Guillotine, later Sheer Cold. Endless Battle, like 2 Dittos, yeah, that can happen. Cleric Clause, all Pokemon has full HP, PP, you can't do anything like that. Invulnerability Clause, no moves that have Fly or Dig. There's Glitch, involving Paralyze, yeah. Tradeback Clause, can't use those egg moves, can't use Amnesia from an egg move in Gold and Silver in Red and Blue. Those are fun though. Like if you ever look at some of the trade backs, there's some really fun moves like that. Amnesia in Gen 1 is amazing. So if you can get Amnesia on someone and trade it back. Well, let's go into Evasion. Evasion is it's stupid in Gen 1. Like I recognize that Double Team is a TM that everyone can pretty much learn. I think it is like Toxic, where if you can learn TMs, you can learn Double Teams. So you can just sit there and just boost Evasion over and over and over, and then they're not going to be able to counter it. I don't think Swift even necessarily works correctly, but imagine you use Gengar. Gengar's immune to Swift, or a rock type that is resistant to Swift. So even when you do hit, it won't do that much damage. I think it's fair to have banned it in Gen 1, because then it just becomes rolling the dice, hoping you're hitting, fine. I understand that. What I don't think is fair is Hyper Beam is glitched in Gen 1. Hyper Beam hits really hard, you have the delay. If you knock out a Pokemon though, if you're like, oh, here's a Wild Paris, I'm gonna Hyper Beam him, knocked him out on my delay. That's broken in my mind. It made a lot of the meta revolve around normal types and Hyper Beam, Tauros, Snorlax, things like that, and knowing when you can knock them out, that you're gonna basically win and have that victory. But like later gens, it's fixed. Like, why is that allowed in all these various metas? I don't know if I'd allow it. I don't know if I'd allow Chansey either. Like, Chansey's stats are just so crazy high HP, and Snorlax, I'm like, I don't know, I feel like if you get rid of Hyper Beam, like, maybe it balances Snorlax a bit more, but fighting just wasn't there, and like, recovery moves, I think, is also like would Chansey be as great without Soft Boiled? And then like what happens if you get rid of recovery, or not recover, Starmie, Alakazam, just no recovery moves, no rest. Ooh. No sleep moves. Sleep is stupid powerful. Just gonna spore you. Just gonna spore you. You're just spored. Spored you. You're spored, and now you're asleep. Nobody uses Parasect though. Parasect's one of my favorite, but it lasts like 1 to 7 turns. But they have these sleep clauses. I'm like, so you have a workaround rather than just getting rid of it. Like, you're only allowed to sleep one Pokemon, so if you use a sleep move when they switch, it just doesn't do anything. Like, that's an interesting mechanic that they've calculated. But I'm like, maybe just ban sleep moves. My friend and I had done a few Pokemon games against, matches against each other. We had sort of a gentleman's agreement on things, that we wouldn't use certain things. Like, maybe we should not allow Recover. Like, you can use Starmie, you can use Chansey, but they can't use healing moves. And it made it much more interesting, because at the time in Gen 1, there's not a lot of those. So I'm like, I'm not going to sit and, like, make my own meta. Like, it's probably way too late. I just see the way things evolved within the games, what you could do, how you could kind of make it more fun. And I know people, the debate of all of it, Recover's not that great, you still have to predict, you still have weaknesses, and like, for a competitive game, I don't know, I was trying to look at ways to, like, make it more like everyone kind of has the same options, the same availability. Let's look at some notes here. So, evasion, I think in later gens, Gen 2, I think it is still too powerful. Something I think is interesting though, in Gen 1, apparently it's a glitch that you can randomly miss. You have a 1 in 256 chance of just missing. I wish that existed. I think that's great. I think it's the critical fail of Pokemon. You roll the dice and whoops, you missed. There's always that chance that Flamethrower just misses. But Gen 2, still probably not quite there on dealing with evasion. There's a couple more things to help deal with it. And then they added the thing that I think is one of the coolest items in the game, but they always ban it, Bright Powder. It's banned. Can't use Bright Powder because it adds a little evasion. Even though Feint Attack is basically everywhere. People would probably run Feint Attack a lot if people were allowed to use Bright Powder. They might run Thief more, because then you'd steal their Bright Powder. Double Team, I would have allowed level up Pokemon in Gen 2 if you learned it by level up or egg move, which, that's discounting TMs. But be like, well, why not? Why not let Scizor and Pikachu and whoever get evasion? Gen 3, I think there's even more tools to deal with it, because there's even more never hit moves with Magical Leaf. And is that when they added Knockoff? Knockoff gets better throughout the generations. Bright Powder, Cacturn's Sandveil ability. Like, why not allow these things? If the meta really became that these things are effective and they win, then why not? I don't think they would. Like, I don't think they're going to win the marathon of, 7 times out of 10 evasion's going to win. I know that's like, oh, then you have to, like, bring counters to that. You have to bring Shockwave and these never hit or never miss hit moves like Swift and so on to counter the evasion, or accuracy up things, or reducing evasion or resetting stats. I'm like, well, we already kind of have to do that now when people buff speed, attacks, defenses, to kind of deal with a buffed Pokemon. So what's the difference? Because when someone has really high defense, like, oh, well, you're still going to hit as much. I'm like, you can lower accuracy to it, sort of thing. Like, you can't buff the event. I'm like, just allow it. Just allow it. It should just be allowed. If I was running my own Pokemon tournament, I would allow it pretty much Gen 3 on. Gen 3 on allowed Double Team. Gen 2 would be, there'd be some stipulations. Gen 1, I understand it's a little broken, although I think I'd probably want to allow it if you'd learned it by level up. I don't know how many learned it by level up in Gen 1. It's probably like Pikachu. It's like, oh, everyone's going to be running Pikachu and using Double Team. Like, well, just use Fisher or something. Oh, which is a whole other thing. Me and my friend, we were looking into the one-hit KO moves, and I was like trying them in any format, like anything goes formats. There isn't a Gen 1 anything goes format, and Those are absolutely overpowered. They're hilariously overpowered, where it's so much fun, where it's just like, miss, completely gone. I'm like, oh, please, that's wonderful. I love that. I want to do these metas. That's what's fun for me, is the high highs, low low, like going all over the place. Can be neat. One thing I think that's also absurd is there's no item clause for some of these gens, like, or any of these gens really. Well, the Nintendo Cup has like item clauses, like you can't hold like VGC, whatever it's called. I don't know the names of all these things. There's too many Pokemon to remember. There's too many names of all these things. Anyway, but like everyone can just have leftovers. And when my friend and I were going, I was like, we shouldn't do that. It's like one leftover. You need different items across the board. So we had to use like Scope Lens and Quick Claw and like find how to build our team, which I'm like, that's more interesting to me. And that adds the sense of like unpredictability when you're fighting someone. Like when you just know they're gonna have leftovers, you just know they're gonna get some healing back. You're like, okay, cool. And that's carried over for a lot of gens. But then later there's more interesting items to use, like so people don't just run leftovers all the time. And again, there's way more counters to items. So if you're running into trouble from leftovers, it's like you should have countered that, because you could be running into problems from choice banders and all these other things. But I still think that's an interesting rule, that you ought to only have one of each item, and it's wild to me that that's not a thing. I think this is a more concise video. I think I'm done. I think I could go on and on and on. I'm always worried I'm going to repeat myself. I'd love to like rebalance. Maybe that should be my next video, is my rebalancing. How I think Bug should resist Psychic. Maybe Steel should be weak to Dragon. Maybe Steel should be Grass. All these different ideas I have about types. But I think that's all I wanted to get into the competitive. I'm not really that into the competitive scene. I do just wish... It's almost like, you know, in sports, there's different leagues. Like, I wish there was like a league that I liked. It's like when you were playing online, like on the DS, the Game Boy, whatever. Well, I guess not the Game Boy. On the DS, 3DS. They didn't have those stipulations. You just queued in, and people could run double team all they wanted. And I did sometimes. I did in Gen 4. Like, I used an evasion team. And it's not like I was crushing it, you know. But I appreciate that there's people that can... I wonder if that picked up that attention. I have a game of Space Station 13 open that's laggy. Well, maybe we'll leave that in. Who needs an edit? But yeah, I appreciate that there was sort of this different leagues in a way. It's like, if you were just doing random queue battles, you weren't agreeing to all these clauses and stuff, but ban sleep. I'd probably just ban sleeps. Just ban them. Like, I think they are in, like, Gen 9, like, OOU, whatever. I'm like, well, why not ban them in Gen 1? Ban Hyper Beam, ban sleep. I don't know. I don't think I'll be able to pioneer a new format. I'm not, you know, not popular enough for like, all right, here we go, Pokemaniacs. This is your goth format where we're all right. That's good enough. Thanks for checking this video out with me.